The rain hit the pavement like bullets, each drop exploding in the neon glow of downtown. Viktor Zhao stood at the second-floor window of the Red Lotus restaurant, watching the street below with the practiced indifference of a man who'd seen everything twice. His phone buzzed. Another territory dispute, another crew pushing boundaries. He'd deal with it tomorrow. Then he heard it, small fists pounding on the steel service door below. Desperate. Urgent. "Please, somebody help. They're killing her." Victor's hand stopped mid-reach for his whiskey glass. That voice, a child. He moved toward the stairs, his second-in-command Chen already halfway down. "Boss, it's just some street kid. I'll handle it." "No." Victor's voice cut through the drumming rain. "I'll see this." He pushed through the door into the alley. A little girl stood there, maybe 5 years old, barefoot and shaking. Her pink pajamas were soaked through, her dark hair plastered to her face. But her eyes, God, those eyes held a terror that made Victor's chest tighten in a way he hadn't felt in 20 years. "Please, mister," she gasped, reaching for him with tiny hands. "Mama, they're hurting Mama. Dante and his friends, they won't stop. There's so much blood." Victor knelt, bringing himself to her level. Water pooled around his expensive shoes. "What's your name?" "Sarah." Her voice cracked. "Sarah Martinez. Mama's name is Elena. Please, please, you have to help her." Something ancient stirred in Victor's memory. A different little girl, a different night. His sister's face, 15 years gone, flashed before him. He'd been too late then? Not this time. "Chen." Victor stood, his decision made in an instant. "Get Park and Jackson. Full gear. We move in 3 minutes." "Boss, we don't even know. 3 minutes." Victor turned back to Sarah, his voice softening in a way that surprised even him. "Where's your mama?" "Riverside Apartments, building C, 4th floor, apartment 4B. The address tumbled out, practiced, like she'd memorized it for exactly this moment. Victor shrugged off his jacket and wrapped it around the shivering child. "You're very brave, Sarah. Braver than most men I know. We're going to get your mama, I promise." Inside the restaurant's back room, his crew assembled with military efficiency. Chen handed out earpieces and weapons. Park checked his knife, his face expressionless. Jackson powered up a tablet, already pulling building schematics. "Riverside C, 4th floor," Jackson muttered, fingers flying across the screen. "Fire escape on the north side. 2 exits. Security cameras are..." He paused, typing rapidly. "Now on a loop. We've got a 20-minute window before anyone notices." Victor loaded his Glock with practiced ease, the weight familiar, comforting even. "Rules are simple. We extract the target. Anyone who gets in, the way goes down. But I want this Dante breathing. He answers questions first." "And the kid?" Chen asked, gesturing to Sarah, who stood in the doorway, watching them with those impossibly old eyes. "She comes. She's the only one who knows exactly where her mother is." Chen opened his mouth to protest, saw Victor's expression, and closed it again. Smart man. The drive to Riverside took 8 minutes through rain-slicked streets. Sarah sat between Victor and Chen in the back of the black SUV, her small hand gripping the sleeve of Victor's jacket she still wore. She didn't cry, didn't speak. Just stared straight ahead with a focus that unnerved him. "Sarah," Victor said quietly, "when we get there, you stay in the vehicle with Chen. Understand? I need to see Mama. And you will. But first, we make sure it's safe." She looked up at him, rain still dripping from her hair. "You're not lying? You'll really get her?" Victor met her gaze. "I'm many things, Sarah. But I'm not a liar. Your mama is coming home tonight." If Sarah was scared by the weapons, the tattoos, the barely contained violence radiating from Viktor's crew, she didn't show it. She just nodded, a small gesture of trust that felt heavier than any debt Viktor had ever carried. The Riverside apartments rose like a broken tooth against the night sky. Graffiti covered the lower floors. Half the windows were boarded up, the kind of place where people minded their own business because asking questions got you hurt. Viktor and his team moved through the building like shadows. 4th floor. The hallway reeked of mold and something chemical. Apartment 4B's door hung partially open, voices and laughter spilling out. Male voices, drunk, high, celebrating. Viktor held up a fist. His team froze. He counted down with his fingers. 3, 2, 1. They hit the door like a wave. The scene inside made Viktor's jaw clench. Elena Martinez lay crumpled in the corner, face swollen, blood matting her blonde hair. 3 men were scattered around the room, beer bottles and drug paraphernalia on every surface. One was passed out on the couch. Another was at the window smoking. The third, a wiry man with wild eyes and prison tattoos, spun toward the door, fumbling for something in his waistband. "Don't." Viktor's gun was already aimed at the man's chest. "Hands where I can see them." "Who the hell are—" The man's eyes widened. Oh shit, you're him. You're the tiger." "Where's Dante?" Viktor's voice was ice. The man at the window bolted, crashed through the glass in an explosion of shards and screams. Park was already moving, leaping through after him, but the fire escape groaned, and the runner disappeared into the maze of alleys below. "God damn it," Chen muttered, zip-tying the remaining conscious man. The one on the couch groaned, starting to wake. Park's boot connected with his temple. He went still again. Viktor crossed to Elena. She was breathing, barely. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused and terrified. "Elena Martinez?" Viktor asked softly. "Sarah," she whispered through broken lips. "My baby. Where's Sarah?" "Safe, outside with my people. We're taking you to her." Viktor lifted her with surprising gentleness, her weight almost nothing in his arms. She whimpered, and he saw the unnatural angle of her ribs. Broken. Multiple fractures. These animals had beaten her within an inch of her life. "Chen, get the cleaners here. I want this place sanitized in 30 minutes. Jackson, pull every surveillance feed within 3 blocks. Find out where that bastard ran." Viktor's voice was calm, but Chen knew that tone. Someone was going to die slowly for this. "And these 2? Chen gestured to the restrained men. "Bring them. They're going to tell us everything about Dante." The extraction took 4 minutes. By the time they reached the SUV, Elena had passed out again. Sarah's face went white when she saw her mother, but she didn't scream. Just climbed into the back seat and took her mother's hand. "Is she dying?" Sarah's voice was small. "No," Viktor said, and meant it. "We have a doctor, a good one. She's going to be fine, Sarah. I promise." St. Michael's Medical Center had a private wing. Very private. The kind of private that didn't ask questions when men in expensive suits showed up with a beaten woman at 2 a.m. Dr. Kim met them at the side entrance, his face professionally neutral. "Exam room 3 is ready," he said, already assessing Elena's injuries. "Broken ribs, possible internal bleeding, facial fractures. She'll need imaging." "Do whatever it takes," Viktor said. "And doctor, this patient was never here." Dr. Kim nodded. He'd been in Viktor's pocket for 5 years. Some debts were paid in silence and discretion. Sarah refused to leave her mother's side. She sat in a plastic chair, still wearing Viktor's jacket, watching as nurses cleaned Elena's wounds and started an IV. Her face was blank, but her hands shook. Viktor found himself standing in the hallway, making calls he never thought he'd make. First, to his lawyer, Ms. Torres. I need emergency custody papers, tonight. A child named Sarah Martinez, age 5. Mother's in the hospital, father's not in the picture, and the boyfriend just tried to kill her. Victor, the system doesn't work that fast. Make it work. I don't care what you have to do or who you have to pay. By morning, I want legal guardianship, temporary, emergency basis. Tell Judge Brennan I'm calling in that favor. Ms. Torres sighed. This is going to cost you. Everything costs me. Just do it. His second call was to Chen. Status? Cleaners are finishing up. The apartment looks like nothing happened. Our 2 guests are very talkative. Dante's full name is Dante Rivera. Small-time dealer, rap sheet as long as my arm. Known associates include a guy named Marcus Webb and someone called Tiny. They're saying Dante's been paranoid lately, talking about someone being after him. Thinks he's made enemies. He has now, Victor said coldly. Find him. I want every dealer, every corner, every dive bar in this city squeezed until someone gives him up. And the 2 we grabbed? Victor was quiet for a moment. They put their hands on a woman and terrorized a child. You know what to do. Chen understood. The line went dead. Victor returned to the examination room. Sarah had fallen asleep in the chair, her head resting against the wall at an uncomfortable angle. Elena was sleeping too, heavily sedated, her face already bruising in violent shades of purple and black. Dr. Kim approached, chart in hand. 3 broken ribs, a fractured cheekbone, severe contusions across her back and abdomen. No internal bleeding, thank God, but she's going to be in significant pain for weeks. Whoever did this wanted her to suffer. Can she be moved? Not for a few days. She needs observation. Victor nodded. Keep her in the private wing. Extra security. No one gets near her without clearance from me personally. Understood? Dr. Kim hesitated. Victor, this woman and her child, they're not your usual associates. What are you planning here? Victor looked at Sarah, curled in the chair, her small chest rising and falling with sleep. That drawing she'd make in a few hours, when the shock wore off and the tears finally came. A stick figure man with a tiger on his shirt. A little girl holding his hand. A yellow sun overhead. The words, "Thank you," in shaky crayon letters. He didn't know it yet, but that drawing would change everything. I'm planning to make sure they never have to be afraid again, Victor said finally. Whatever that takes. By dawn, the paperwork was done. Judge Brennan, bleary-eyed and resentful, but thoroughly compromised by photographs of his weekend activities in Atlantic City, signed the emergency custody order. Sarah Martinez was now, legally, under Viktor Zhao's guardianship until such time as her mother recovered and could resume care. Ms. Torres delivered the papers herself, her expression carefully neutral. The judge wasn't happy, but he signed. You're now responsible for this child, Victor. That means school, healthcare, everything. Are you sure about this? Victor took the papers. Outside the window, the city was waking up. Delivery trucks, early commuters, normal people living normal lives. Lives he'd never have. I've never been sure of anything, he admitted, but I gave that little girl my word. That's worth more than certainty. When Sarah woke up, stiff and disoriented, Victor was there with coffee for himself and hot chocolate for her. She took it carefully, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed. Your mama's sleeping, Victor said gently. The doctor says she's going to be okay. She needs rest, but she'll be fine. Sarah's eyes filled with tears for the first time. Really? You're not just saying that? Really? Victor showed her the monitors, the steady beep of Elena's heartbeat. See? She's strong. Like you. Sarah's face crumpled and suddenly she was crying. great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Victor, uncertain and awkward, pulled her into his lap and let her cry. Her tears soaked into his shirt, and he realized he didn't care. "You're safe now," he murmured. "Both of you. I promise, Sarah. You're safe." If you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The tiger's debt is far from paid. 3 days passed. 3 days of Victor's entire network scouring the city for Dante Rivera. Every street corner informant, every dealer who owed him favors, every cop on his payroll checking hotels, bus stations, airports. Nothing. Dante had vanished like smoke. Sarah stayed in Victor's penthouse, a gleaming tower of glass and steel that overlooked the financial district. She had a bedroom bigger than her old apartment, clothes that actually fit, toys she'd never dreamed of owning, but she barely touched any of it. She just wanted her mother. Victor found himself in unfamiliar territory. How do you talk to a 5-year-old? What do they eat? Do they need schedules? He hired a nanny, Mrs. Park, who came with excellent references and a kind face. She helped with the basics, but Sarah seemed to only truly relax around Victor himself. On the 3rd night, unable to sleep, Sarah wandered into Victor's office. He was at his desk, reviewing reports, a glass of whiskey at his elbow. He looked up, surprised. "Can't sleep?" he asked. Sarah shook her head. She was holding a box of crayons Mrs. Park had bought. "Can I draw?" "Of course." Victor cleared space on his desk, pushing aside documents detailing drug shipments and protection payments to make room for a little girl's art. Sarah drew in silence for 20 minutes while Victor pretended to work, actually watching her from the corner of his eye. When she finished, she held up the paper shyly. A stick figure man with black hair and what might have been a tiger on his shirt, a smaller figure holding his hand, a bright yellow sun overhead, and in careful, shaky letters, "Thank you, Uncle Victor." Something cracked in Victor's chest. Something he thought had died years ago. "This is beautiful, Sarah," he said, his voice rough. "Can I keep it?" She nodded, a small smile finally breaking through her worry. "You saved us. You're a good man." Victor thought of the men whose bodies were at the bottom of the harbor, the rivals he'd destroyed, the blood on his hands that would never wash clean. "I'm not a good man, Sarah. You saved Mama. Good men save people." Such simple logic, such impossible faith. He didn't correct her. Instead, he carefully pinned the drawing to his office wall, next to windows that looked out over an empire built on fear. That was the moment Chen called. His voice was tight with urgency. "Boss, we've got a situation. It's Elena. She's gone." Victor's blood went cold. "What do you mean, gone?" "Someone took her from the hospital. Jae Sung, the guard on duty, he's in surgery. They beat him pretty bad. Dr. Kim says 4 men masked knew exactly where they were going. They had inside information." "Security footage?" "Already on it, but boss," Chen's voice dropped, "they left something." Victor was already moving, grabbing his jacket. Sarah looked up, sensing the change in the air. "I have to go out," he told her. "Mrs. Park will stay with you. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone but me, understand?" Sarah's eyes went wide. "Is it Mama? Did something happen to Mama?" Victor knelt before her, taking her small shoulders in his hands. "I'm going to find her, Sarah, just like before, but I need you to be brave again. Can you do that?" She nodded, but her lip trembled. "Promise you'll bring her back?" "I promise." He meant it. Even if he had to burn the entire city down, he'd keep that promise. The hospital was chaos barely contained, police cars outside, their lights painting the building in flashing blue and red. Detective Walsh met Victor at the entrance, his expression carefully neutral. Walsh was paid well to look the other way, but even he seemed shaken. 4 men, professional, in and out in under 3 minutes, Walsh said. They knew the layout, knew which room, had a window where the cameras were cycling. This wasn't random. Show me the room. Elena's hospital room looked like a crime scene because it was. Blood on the floor. Jae-sung's, not Elena's, thank God. The bed was empty, IV ripped free, and on the wall, written in what Viktor's trained eye recognized as Elena's own blood, a message. You took mine, I took yours. Let's see who blinks first. Taped to the bed was a Polaroid. Elena, alive, terrified, bound to a chair in some dim location. Behind her, barely visible, part of a logo, industrial, familiar. Dante, Viktor said flatly. We're already searching, Chen said from the doorway. He handed Viktor a tablet. Jackson pulled traffic cam footage. Black SUV, stolen plates, heading toward the industrial district. We've got 3 possible locations based on the trajectory. Viktor studied the Polaroid again. The logo, old, faded. He'd seen it before. Years ago. The old Wellington Cannery, Riverside Industrial Park. That logo, it's from the fish processing company that used to operate there. Abandoned for 5 years, Jackson confirmed, pulling up satellite imagery. Perfect place for a hostage situation. Get everyone, every man we have. We hit all 3 locations simultaneously. Viktor's voice was pure ice. No communication between teams. If Dante has someone on the inside, I don't want him getting warning. Boss, Chen said carefully, this could be a trap. He's baiting you. He knows you'll come. Of course it's a trap, Viktor agreed. But he made one mistake. He thinks I care about being careful. He's wrong. He took something I promised to protect. Now there's nowhere on earth he can hide. Detective Walsh cleared his throat. Viktor, I can't give you much, but I can give you 2 hours. After that, I have to call this in for real. The hospital is already asking questions. 2 hours is all I need. Viktor turned to Chen. Get me Dante Rivera's full file. Every known associate, every place he's ever been seen, every phone number he's ever called. And Chen, when we find him, I want him alive long enough to answer one question. What question? Viktor looked at the message on the wall, at Elena's blood used as ink for Dante's threats. Why he thought threatening my family was anything but suicide. The word hung in the air. Family. Viktor heard it come out of his mouth and realized he meant it. Somewhere in the last 3 days, without him even noticing, Sarah and Elena had stopped being a job and started being something else. Something that demanded protection. Something worth killing for. Maybe Chen was right. Maybe Sarah had broken something in him. But looking at that message, at that Polaroid of Elena's terrified face, Viktor didn't feel broken. He felt focused. Move out, he ordered, and someone tell Mrs. Park to keep Sarah away from the windows. If Dante's people are watching, I don't want them getting ideas. The hunt was on, and in the rain-soaked streets of the city, word spread fast. The tiger was on the move. Someone had made the fatal mistake of touching what was his. Blood was about to flow. Viktor's empire mobilized like a machine built for war. 3 teams, 3 locations, perfect synchronization. Jackson sat in the command vehicle, fingers dancing across keyboards, routing surveillance feeds through scrambled connections. Traffic cameras bent to his will. Security systems went blind on command. Team Alpha at the warehouse, Team Bravo approaching the industrial park, Team Charlie at the dockyards. Chen's voice crackled through Viktor's earpiece. We move on your signal, boss. Viktor stood outside the Wellington Cannery, rain streaming down his face. The building loomed like a corpse, windows shattered, walls streaked with rust and graffiti. Inside, thermal imaging showed 4 heat signatures, one smaller than the others, bound, immobile. Elena. "All teams, you have a go," Viktor said quietly. They moved like death itself. Flashbangs shattered the silence. Smoke grenades turned the cannery floor into a gray hell. Viktor's team poured through the entrance, weapons up, covering angles with practiced precision. The scene inside was exactly what Viktor expected. Elena tied to a chair in the center of the main floor, duct tape over her mouth, eyes wide with terror and hope. 3 men positioned around her like guards, and Dante Rivera himself, standing behind Elena with a pistol pressed to her head, grinning like a maniac. "The tiger himself!" Dante shouted, voice echoing off rusted metal and broken concrete. "I'm honored, really, but you come any closer, and this bitch gets her brains painted across the floor." Viktor stopped 10 feet away, his Glock steady, aimed at Dante's center mass. His team fanned out, covering the other guards. "Let her go, Dante. This doesn't end well for you either way. Make it easier on yourself." "Easier?" Dante laughed, the sound brittle and manic. "You think you're better than me? You're just another killer in an expensive suit. At least I'm honest about what I am. You beat a defenseless woman. You terrorized a child. We're nothing alike." "She was mine!" Dante's voice rose to a shriek. "Elena was mine. You had no right to take her, no right to take Sarah. She was never yours. You don't own people, Dante. You can't even own yourself." Viktor's voice was cold, steady. "Look at you, shaking, high on your own product. This is your endgame? Taking hostages? You're pathetic." Dante's hand trembled. The gun wavered. "I should kill her right now, let you watch, let you feel what it's like to fail." "You could," Viktor agreed. "But the second you pull that trigger, you die. My sniper has you lined up right now. You're already dead, Dante. You just don't know it yet." "Bullshit! I don't see any—" The shot came through the broken skylight. Harper's bullet took the guard on the left, straight through the skull. He dropped like his strings were cut. Chaos erupted. The other 2 guards spun, raising weapons. Park and Chen moved with lethal efficiency. 2 shots, 2 bodies hitting the concrete. Dante jerked the gun from Elena's head, swinging it wildly toward Viktor. He got 1 shot off, the bullet whining past Viktor's ear. Then Viktor was moving, closing the distance faster than Dante's drug-addled reflexes could track. Viktor's hand clamped around Dante's wrist, twisting. Bones snapped, the gun clattered away. Dante screamed, tried to throw a punch. Viktor caught it, drove his knee into Dante's stomach, then his face. Dante went down hard. "Please," Dante gasped, blood pouring from his shattered nose. "Please, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, I was just scared, you know. You can understand that, right?" Viktor stood over him, his shadow falling across Dante like a shroud. He thought of Sarah's drawing, the stick figure man and child holding hands, the yellow sun, the simple faith that he was good. "I understand fear," Viktor said quietly. "I understand desperation. What I don't understand is hurting people weaker than you. That's not fear. That's evil." He drew his weapon. Dante's eyes went wide. Wait, we can make a deal. I've got connections, money hidden, I can—" "You had your chance to be a better man," Viktor said. "You chose this." The shot echoed through the empty cannery. Then silence. Viktor holstered his weapon and moved to Elena, gently removing the tape from her mouth and cutting her restraints. She collapsed into his arms, sobbing. "Sarah," she whispered. "Is Sarah safe?" "She's safe. She's waiting for you. Let's go home." 6 months later, the city looked different in daylight. Cleaner, somehow. Less dangerous. Viktor knew that was an illusion, but he let himself pretend for a moment. He stood on the porch of a small house in the suburbs, watching Sarah play in the yard. She was laughing, chasing a butterfly, her hair catching the sunlight. Elena sat on the steps, healed now, watching her daughter with tears of joy in her eyes. "New identities are solid," Chen said beside him, reviewing a tablet. "Emma and Sophie Rivera, credit history, school enrollment, everything's in place. The trust fund is established. They'll never want for anything." "Good." Viktor watched Sarah catch the butterfly, then gently let it go. "Make sure the security team stays on rotation. I don't want them knowing they're being watched, but I want them protected. Already handled, boss." Elena stood, walked over to Viktor. "I don't know how to thank you. You gave us our lives back." "You don't owe me anything," Viktor said, but his voice was softer than usual. "Just be happy, live well. That's enough." Sarah ran up, throwing her arms around Viktor's legs. "Uncle Viktor, are you staying for dinner?" He knelt, bringing himself to her level like he had that first night in the rain. "Not tonight, little one, but I'll visit soon, I promise." "You always keep your promises," Sarah said seriously. Then she kissed his cheek and ran back to her butterfly. Viktor stood, nodded to Elena, and walked to his car. Chen followed, wisely silent. That night, back in his penthouse, Viktor stood at his window looking over the city. His empire, his territory, built on blood and fear and power. On his office wall, carefully framed, hung Sarah's drawing. The stick figure man with the tiger. The little girl holding his hand. The yellow sun overhead. "Thank you, Uncle Viktor." His phone buzzed. Another territorial dispute. Another problem that required his particular brand of solution. He should answer it. Should return to being the man the city feared. Instead, he poured a whiskey and stared at that drawing. At evidence of innocence he'd somehow managed to protect. At proof that maybe, just maybe, he was capable of being more than just the tiger. He'd killed 17 men in the last 6 months. Broken bones. Destroyed lives. Built his empire higher on foundations of violence and corruption. But he'd also saved 2 lives. Protected innocence. Kept a promise to a terrified child in the rain. Viktor Zhao wasn't redeemed. He knew that. His hands were too bloody, his soul too dark for redemption. But Sarah's drawing suggested something else. Not redemption. Purpose. He raised his glass to the city, to the darkness, to the empire he'd built, and the strange, impossible responsibility he'd taken on. "To debts paid," he murmured, "and promises kept." The drawing hung on his wall, a splash of color in his sterile world, a reminder that even tigers could choose what they protected. Even monsters could choose to be guardians. The rain started again outside, washing the city clean, at least for one more night. Before you go, if this story moved you, hit that like button and drop a comment below. What would you do if you were Viktor? Could you walk away from your empire for the right reason? Subscribe for more stories that'll keep you up at night thinking. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones with something worth protecting.